The Galen Hour. 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 Every Thursday, 8 o'clock p.m. on Love Television and Facebook Live.
Good night and welcome to the Galen Hour. I'm Diana Gomez-Perfit and I'm your host. The Galen Hour airs live on Thursdays at 8 o'clock here on Love TV. It's streamed on Love Facebook page and shared on the Galen Facebook page. We're happy to have you with us tonight and we hope you join us every Thursday night. On Thursdays, we will talk about our Galen Eagles, our programs that are offered at Galen University. We'll share and talk with our deans, our faculty. We will talk about Galen's commitment to lifelong learning, academic excellence, and sustainable development. We'll weigh in on national issues from an academic perspective. You'll be kept up to date with what's happening at Galen and all the wonderful developments that are taking place as our university grows and prospers. We hope that you choose Galen as an option for your education, and we look forward to working with you as you express your interest to be a Galen Eagle. Last week in our first show, we met with 3 of our Galen Eagles and heard how their education impacted their lives and where they are today. Tonight, we'll be talking with members of the Galen Anthropology program. We'll particularly be looking at archaeology, what's happening in our own backyard, how our young people are being engaged more and more every day in archaeology. It should be a really exciting show, so we look forward to sharing with you. We have a great panel with us tonight. Our panel consists of our Dean of Faculty, 2 of our lecturers, and 2 of our Galen Eagles. Welcome to the Galen Hour. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get right into our discussion.
Audio Jungle.
I chose Galen because of its strong reputation, great scholarships.
I came because I can take all my classes online.
I was happy to see the emphasis placed on thinking, research, and writing. It is what I need to take me where I want to go.
I like the way my professors use non-traditional activities to evaluate my progress.
I am very grateful for the wide range of support that helps me to do my utmost best. Everything from tutoring to personal counseling, including the writing lab, the success center, and the e-library.
Galen gave me the tools to turn my passion for archaeology into a career.
If you want to connect with your inner champion to make the world a better place, then Galen is right for you. Apply online at our website and come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Did you know that Galen University is offering a 20% tuition discount? In recognition of the challenging economic times, Galen University is offering a 20% tuition discount. Apply now at admissions@galen.edu.bz, call us at 615-3921, or visit our website at www.galen.edu.bz.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. I'd like to use this opportunity now to welcome our guests as they join me for our discussion tonight. We want to talk about the anthropology program, and like I said earlier, we're going to focus on archaeology. We have with us Dean Gibbs, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Science and Technology, a woman who has really worked well and long and hard with Galen University and has brought our Faculty of Arts, Science and Technology to a level that is really impressive. Dean Gibbs, good night and welcome. Thank you for being here with us tonight. We also have joining us tonight one of our adjunct lecturers who's also an archaeologist, and he works in the Institute of Archaeology, Mr. Antonio Berdal. Antonio, welcome. Yeah, you're there with us. We have with us Sylvia Batty, who this is her second show. She was with us last week, and Sylvia, we're so pleased to have you on again. This is right up your alley. So welcome tonight. Sylvia also is an archaeologist who works at the Institute of Archaeology, and she's a Galen Eagle. Welcome, Sylvia.
Hi, good night. Thank you for having me again.
Welcome. And we have two of our Eagles with us. We have tonight Rumari Ku and Akira Shahid. Both are currently enrolled at Galen. They're part of the anthropology program, and they're currently doing archaeology. And I had the wonderful opportunity earlier today, to actually see them at work in the fields. And so we know tonight is going to be a wonderful discussion, and it is really a pleasure to have all of you on with us tonight. So let's get into our discussion. Dean Gibbs, tell us, why study archaeology? Why study anthropology?
That's a huge question. Why should we study it? Because they're both two extremely important disciplines and areas for us to look at. Archaeology is actually a subfield of anthropology. Anthropology is this massive discipline that contains four main subfields: cultural anthropology, archaeology, biological anthropology, and linguistics. And all of that is having to do with us, humans, looking at our culture, what it means to be human, what it means to be us, what it means to be Garifuna, what it means to be Maya, what it means to be Creole. But all of these different areas, so the biological aspect, that's more of my background, looking at human skeletal remains in an archaeological context. I'm also really interested in looking at them in a forensic context, looking at human variation. Why are we all different? How is it that we're all different? From the language perspective, it's just absolutely fascinating. Studying languages, how languages have evolved, how we can track the movement of people based on languages. Just look at Belize and all of the different languages that we have here. And then from the cultural anthropology perspective, looking at groups today, how we interact together, how do we make sense of what's going on, how do we deal with COVID, how do we understand what this disease means, how do you talk to different groups, and how do you talk to people about the importance of the social distancing and wearing masks, vaccines, food could be a whole other area that we can get into, and the importance of food, and why certain foods are so important to different groups. And then, of course, the archaeology part of things, that's so important, cultural heritage of our past, and why it's so important to understand it and to protect it and to share it.
Oh, fantastic. So our anthropology really relates to all of us, and so this is really a good topic to discuss. Antonio, we have you on tonight, and I'd like for you to share with our viewers what a course in archaeology consists of. I know I was on site today seeing what your students were doing. It's actually very exciting when you're actually there and seeing, but can you share for those who are not really familiar, what does the course entail?
I think one of the first things that people will get to encounter is choosing where to actually excavate. And that sometimes can be tricky if you don't have any existing architecture, or if no one has excavated in a place before, then you have to choose a place that is kind of random, or, and then it's very systematic in how you go about to create a unit, how you go about to excavate, and the things that you look for when you excavate, how levels may change naturally or due to what you find in the ground culturally. But it's not just the excavation that you encounter in an archaeological fieldwork. It's the interpretation of what you find, and it's about creating these skills to start to analyze what you see before you and to start to create a puzzle and to start to create the story. And as you keep on excavating and more clues come out and you start to see patterns, then it starts to make you think like an archaeologist, and you start to recreate what happened in this place. But it also is about the careful curation of the things that you pull out and how to take very good notes, because archaeology is it's a destructive field. When you excavate something, you are destroying a context, and so you have to be very detailed in what you write, in terms of your notes, in terms of the photos that you take, in terms of bagging the artifacts correctly in regards to the date and the units and the levels. So at the end of it, when you have destroyed essentially everything that is in the unit, you now have the tools to create a story about what happened. So archaeology is more than just digging. It helps you to think, helps you to analyze, and helps you to be more detailed. So for me, that is what an archaeology course fieldwork is about. But also, it's not just a digging, because we also discuss when we are finding things about the history of the site, which covers the history of Belize and the history of the Maya in general. And we look at how stone tools are made, we look at how ceramics are made, and if we find bone, then we have evidence of animal or human remains there. And so we talk about many topics as well. So archaeological fieldwork is never just one thing that you're doing, it's multifaceted.
Thank you, Antonio. Today we saw you all at San Antonich. San Antonich has been discovered, yet we continue to excavate at San Antonich. So this brings us to the question of why continue to excavate and dig and destroy, as you put it, although we know it's for a good purpose, in an area that has already been discovered. Why do we continue doing excavation at any of our sites?
Well, because for as much as we think we know the entire story of a site, that will never be true. I don't think there's any single site in Belize that has had 100% of excavations. And sometimes if you ignore one single household, one single courtyard, like where we were today, then you are missing one part of the story of what happened. So I think having this kind of work being done at a site that's open for tourism also is good for tourism, because people can come and see the actual process of what's going on and how these sites are the way they are. And for them, I guess it breaks up some of the misconceptions people have as to what archaeology is, that everything is so easy and that they don't see the hard work that goes on. So if there is 1% left of a site that can be excavated, if that 1% can tell you more details about this site and about these people, then I think it is important for us to continue to excavate so we get a fuller understanding and a more clear story of what was going on.
Can I just jump in here?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I totally agree with what Antonio is saying. When you look at the history of archaeology itself, for such a long time, archaeologists were targeting, the great big pyramids, the sort of what comes to people's minds, I think, when they think of archaeology, the really large structures. So they would go to Tikal and be in the downtown, the main area, to strip those massive structures, look for these royal tombs, and really ignoring the common folk, like you and me. And so just looking at, the rulers and what was going on in all of those, all of the things that they can take out to put and take away and put into museums. There's been a real shift within the past few years of looking at settlement archaeology, those people that live outside in the suburban areas outside of that downtown economic core, because realizing that these are the people that really make up a bulk of the society. They were the 99%, right? And what was life like for them? How did they live their life? How did they make a living? What were the foods that they were eating, and how were they different from the elite? How might they have prepared their foods? What sort of access did they have to the special materials? Did they have jade? Did they have obsidian? And what does that tell us then about the economy and trade routes? And so where Antonio and the students are excavating in that little group outside of the main core, where you don't have that nice, the grand architecture. Although I think the architecture is fantastic, that you don't have the big temples. Sometimes you get some of the most interesting information coming out of these areas.
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted to ask the students, and it's kind of a question that spins off of what both Dean Gibbs and Antonio have said just now. When you find a piece of clay pot, or a piece of obsidian, or a piece of bone, which is some of the things I saw today when I was there, what do you do with those items? And what significance are these findings?
Well, first of all, when we find these things, we bag it off. We clean it first, we bag it off. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the time we're dealing with that unit, we would write a card, and we would label the card on what type of material it is, where did we find it, the excavation unit, our supervisor and excavators, and which day. But yeah.
You find today. Go ahead.
It all depends on what we find specifically, because if we were to find charcoal, one of the things that we learned firsthand was that whether we find charcoal, obsidian, special finds, we try to bag it. When I'm talking about charcoal, we try our very best not to touch charcoal with our very hands, because charcoal can be something that can be used for dating, and this helps with filling in the gaps in certain areas for research. So when it comes to charcoal, we have to be very sensitive on how we touch it. We use special materials to bag it. We use, as Akira said, we have to label them where we found it, the excavation unit, how deep it was from the ground that we were digging. So all of that goes towards what and how we deal with an object when we find it.
Okay, so that is good to know. Today, you can see that archaeology is detailed, careful work, hard work, Antonio. The students, I saw you all at work, but very proud of your findings. You've been there, or for the general public to know, our students have been at Sunantanich for the past 4 weeks, working hard, and they've had quite a bit of interesting findings. We do have some pictures that we will share with you all tonight during the course of the show, so you can see some of what may seem as small items to us and unimportant. They're all connected. And in talking to the students, to you, Mari-Ann, Akira, and you just mentioned as well about finding carbon and not touching it. You all in archaeology, you learned the importance of these things. So tell me today, to the naked eye, a piece of charcoal would mean nothing. We would pick it up and we would move it. A piece of clay would mean nothing. We would move it. Why are you so diligently labeling, bagging off the items that you find on site?
So when you're digging, here comes layers. So levels to be exact. When you find something in the first layer, that would be kind of a surface area. We bag that into a specific bag, label it into that specific level. When it comes to a second level, whatever we find within that level gets bagged separately, because we don't want any confusion to occur with any of the evidence that we find. When it comes to digging, it's like I mentioned, if you find charcoal, it all depends on whether you find it on the surface level or if it goes underneath, because as we know, dirt packs over through time. They pack on top of each other. Rocks pack on top of each other. So it all depends on where specifically you find it. And that's why all of this goes into labeling into the card for further research, of course.
Yep. To add to what she said, anybody can find a potsherd anywhere across the entire country, because with the amount of Maya people that we had living in the classic period, there are sites all across Belize. So just by plowing a field or walking in the bush, you can come across these things. And to most people, it might just be a potsherd, but there are people who study these things specifically and look at the way that this potsherd is made, what is inside, what was the clay mixed with. So even though we who are digging at Shannon, we are bagging these things very carefully by layer. We may not study these things ourselves, but someone may come 10 years from now and say, well, I would like to look at all the potsherds that were found in Group B on this structure, so I can analyze them and see, what the makeup was, what kind of clay they were using, and then this way they know exactly at what level these things came from. So that's why it is important to be as detailed as possible. And when it comes to charcoal as well, there are times the girls will yell across the courtyard, I think I found charcoal. They've gotten really good now at spotting charcoal in the ground, but sometimes you can confuse charcoal with just dark soil, but we've taught them ways how to carefully check for sure. So to anyone else out there, an artifact or a piece of a stone may seem just like that, but to people who have a trained eye, or to up-and-coming people who will get trained eyes, students who are coming to Belize, they can study these things without doing any invasive archaeology at all. So we've already done the excavation, we've taken out the artifacts, and now we have material for future students to come and study without actually doing any actual fieldwork.
Good. So I wanted to ask a question of that, Antonio, and this is a question for all of you who are on tonight. How would you describe Belize's backyard, our very own backyard, with respect to opportunity for learning about our people, our culture, and our region? We know people come from abroad to excavate, to learn about the Mayan culture. What would be your way of describing just how rich our backyard is for archaeology and for learning about anthropology?
Belize is, Belize is rich. In terms of our archaeological and cultural resources, it is rich. And it's not just the ancient Maya, but there's also historic archaeology that looks at some of the first villages that were settled in Belize by the Creole, for example. And you can learn a lot of history by going to these places and also excavating there. At its peak, I always hear that Belize maybe had 1.5 to 2 million Maya people living at that time. So sites are essentially littered across the entire Belizean landscape. They're just really covered up by jungles, or they're now submerged in waters or swamps. And we have a lot of students who come down to Belize to get their field credits and to learn. But I think it's now time for us as Belizeans to realize what we have here in Belize and the potential that we have for our own students to learn. And I'm glad that now it's starting to get a lot more popular and a lot more noticed that we have Belizean students who are taking this on and who are doing the work. For as long as I've been doing field work, I've always brought on Belizean volunteers and students, and whenever Sylvia and I would go into the high schools across the country, we would tell students, if you would like experience on a project, get in touch with us and we can make it happen. And quite a few of them do. And they come and we teach them the exact same things that these foreign university students are learning. They're not getting the credits, but they're getting the exact same experience and the exact same education, because now we have the tools so we can start to train younger people to get into archaeology and to build that passion for it. And from what I've seen for the last 4 weeks, we have some future archaeologists in our midst.
An absolutely important point that you brought up. When we will take a short break, but when we come back, we will talk about how we can encourage our own young people to become more interested in archaeology and anthropology. We will talk about any gender biases that may exist in the field of archaeology. We want to talk about perceptions that exist with respect to archaeology being only done by foreigners, when we have within our grasp, within our very own country, a rich background to learn and to grow. We'll take a break and be back in a few minutes.
Did you know that Galen University is offering a 20% tuition discount? In recognition of the challenging economic times, Galen University is offering a 20% tuition discount. Apply now at admissions@galen.edu.bz, call us at 615-3921, or visit our website at www.galen.edu.bz.
Audio Jungle.
I chose Galen because of its strong reputation.
Great scholarships.
I came because I can take all my classes online.
I was happy to see the emphasis placed on thinking, research, and writing. It is what I need to take me where I want to go.
I like the way my professors use non-traditional activities to evaluate my progress.
I am very grateful for the wide range of support that helps me to do my utmost best. Everything from tutoring to personal counseling, including the writing lab, the success center, and the e-library.
Galen gave me the tools to turn my passion for archaeology into a career.
If you want to connect with your inner champion to make the world a better place, then Galen is right for you. Apply online at our website and come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. We want to pick up our discussion where we left off before a break. And I want to start with Sylvia Bate. We have Sylvia on with us tonight, and we know Sylvia is one of our main archaeologists in the country. Antonio does work with her. But Sylvia, I wanted you to take on the question for us first of how do we encourage more Belizeans to study archaeology? How do we change a perception that archaeology is that thing that foreigners come to our country to do in our very own backyard? Sylvia?
Hi, thank you for that question. Well, I would say first and foremost, Belizeans have got to get involved. There are a number of opportunities for archaeology in Belize. We have the Belize Archaeology Symposium that is hosted yearly. We have many avenues for people to engage with archaeology. The outreach department at the Institute of Archaeology does quite a bit of outreach. Additionally, you have wonderful programs like Galen University's Archaeology and Anthropology program, which really engages and creates spaces for people to engage with archaeology. There are volunteer opportunities through many of the archaeological research projects that come to Belize. A lot of these projects are starting out outreach initiatives. So they have community-based fairs, they have public lectures. So a lot of avenues for you to engage with archaeology. But I will say that the part of the onus is on the Belizean to read, to engage. Something as simple as visiting your archaeological reserves. You know, our archaeological reserves are open every day of the year. So 365 days. They're open on Christmas, they're open on New Year's, they're open during Easter, all public and bank holidays. And on public and bank holidays, the entrance fee is waived for Belizeans. On Sundays, the entrance fees are waived for Belizeans. Archaeological sites are large open-air classrooms. There are buildings, there are spaces where you can engage and connect with your history and your heritage. So they're there for the use and for the enjoyment of Belizeans first and foremost. And yeah, get involved. Take a visit, go outside, take your family, go to these archaeological reserves. And we're also seeing a lot of community-based activities that also involve archaeology. I co-found and co-direct an organization, Heritage Education Network Belize. We're online. A lot of our programs are virtual right now. So we have avenues for you to engage with history, with culture, with heritage, with archaeology. San Antonio Kaya, for example, they have their yearly fair, another day in San Antonio, that does have a cultural component, it does have an anthropology component, it does have an archaeology component. So explore your backyard and get involved. That is what I would say.
Yeah. Antonio and Dean Gibbs, I wanted to ask you basically the same question. What do you think, if anything, Galen can do more of or differently or introduce that would encourage more of our young people to take archaeology, to become interested in this particular course?
And one of the things that we were talking about, I think it was this morning, or it may have been last week, the idea of Galen, and we'll look at this for next summer, of offering archaeology camp for young kids. It could be primary school kids, even high school kids. So, you know, thinking that maybe we could do 2 different camps to bring kids out, you know, figuring out logistics. It would be fantastic to bring kids from all around the country to come to Shenantonich, spend a week learning exactly what these girls have been learning. How do you excavate? What does this mean? Why would we even go through all of this? How is it that you can find a small piece of pottery and be able to figure out how old it is? To give you that information of the site and really get them inspired to think about their heritage, their local heritage. They, you know, hopefully would be able to take that back to their parents and to their own family and friends. I think a lot of these movements come from young kids, and once they're taught and exposed to a lot of this, then they will spread that around. And so that's something Antonio and Sylvia will have to discuss along with Dr. Awe and the Institute of Archaeology of what we can do for this for next summer. I know, unfortunately, it seems like it's a long ways away, but you know, we have Archaeology Day. The Anthropology Club does a really great job of promoting archaeology and cultural heritage during the International Archaeology Day, which is usually in October. And then there's Anthropology Day, which comes up again in February. And so they were, before COVID, doing outreach and going into schools and talking to kids about what archaeology is, doing whether it was little games, showing them artifacts, even having little excavation boxes, just to start to get them thinking about this and what this is, and maybe inspiring them, like Sylvia was mentioning, to get out to these sites. Right now at Shenantonich, you can go and see one of the structures that's been a section peeled back, and you can see all of the layers of construction. of architecture. And that was just so great to be able to see that today. And for anybody going and visiting there to understand that when you see these structures, it's not just, they were not just built like what you're seeing, but over 1,000+ years, the changes. Think about the changes that you make in your own house and why you make those changes, and then take that and, think about what the Maya may have been doing.
And since you're mentioning change, I want to now talk about the whole gender issue and if there is a gender gap, or is it just a perception? Do we have more men doing archaeology? Is it a male-dominated field area, or are we beginning to close that gap? Because on our show tonight, we have Udine Gibbs, we have Sylvia, we have two of our eagles who are female as well. And so on our show tonight, we're dominating. But is this representative of what's really true of the course of the area of study? And does archaeology need, do we need to do more to encourage women and young girls to become involved?
I will take that one. That's a very interesting question, a really great observation. So if you look at it statistically, the future of archaeology is female. There was a recent research in Europe that looked at, the entire European area, and they looked at the hard numbers, how many women are in archaeology. And they found that the balance, or the balance was 60-40. So 60% of women to 40% of men. And this was in all levels of archaeology, so sort of that field work, the lab work, the heritage outreach, the management. So we are seeing, especially in the age gap of 45 and under, that the majority of people going into these archaeology programs and then graduating with degrees or moving on into the different fields of archaeology and heritage management are women. Historically, this was not the case. The archaeology used to definitely be a male-dominated field, but we are seeing those shifts. We are seeing sort of that balance starting to come up, and even women are overtaking in numbers the men in archaeology. We're seeing that at Galen University. If we look at the hard numbers of enrollment as well, and we're very proud of our women who are in the field, who are excavating, who are doing all the work that men do. And this is what the future of archaeology will look like in Belize, because the people that are on the show, the learners that are on the show, the learners that are enrolled at the anthropology and archaeology program at Galen, they are the ones that are going to be at the Institute of Archaeology, at the Museum of Belize, hopefully with organizations like Heritage Education Network Belize, and charting the path for archaeology and anthropology in Belize in the future. There is still a lot to be done in terms of representation, Indigenous peoples, people of color. There's still many areas of growth with historic archaeology. What was the archaeology of slavery in Belize? What was the archaeology of the historic period? What does the archaeology of a logging camp look like? So there's a lot of room for growth, and I'm excited to see what all Galen contributes to the future of that growth. Maybe a historic archaeology project soon, Sherry. Yes, a lot of women, and we're proud of them, and we want to see these women excel, and we want to see more women, more men, and more people of these historically underrepresented groups at Galen as well.
To take a stab at that question, you want to tell us how you feel as a young woman in archaeology? I know meeting you today, you are quite excited, and I believe you have plans of going further or furthering your studies in this particular field area. Would you like to share?
So Akira and I, who are both taking this class, it is actually one of our goals to do something with archaeology. We do have separate goals because there are different fields, various fields in archaeology. So as Akira mostly wants to focus on the field work, which is actually being at the site, doing the excavations. Well, it is a core of being an archaeologist. However, I would like to go more into public archaeology, which is teaching, bringing awareness, teaching, bringing awareness, going about and educating kids. I know that Mr. Berdal, he does go to various schools, primary schools, high schools, even sixth forms. He goes to these schools and he talks about archaeology, gives an introduction. It prepares kids or teenagers going who don't know what to do and are looking for something. It opens their minds to, you know what, archaeology is not really just being within a dirt pile. It's actually even much more than that. And it brings a bigger appreciation to it because when I started my career into archaeology, I was fascinated by how many people don't really know the importance of archaeology and what really the role it plays for us as Belizeans. Though it plays roles for everyone, but as Belizeans, I think it's important for us to know about it. Just a little information. While we are at the site of Shunatunich, we did cover many tour guides that they do come with their groups and they bring along and they want to see how excavations occur. And then we as students, we give a brief introduction of what we're doing, of who we are, why we're doing this. So right there we go and we talk to them and most of them would say that they expect us to be outsiders and we have to quickly clarify that we are all Belizean learning archaeologists. Some of us may not end up in the field, but there are a majority of us who want this as a career, and we will strive for that to make it a career because we know how beneficial it can be to our Belizeans. And I mean, it's really fun when you get out there. You get to see these great temples that when you go as a tourist, you go to see these great temples. When you see us out there, it brings a new appreciation to understand what all work goes towards everything looking so beautiful. Even the posters that will be outside, everything all comes together for tourists to understand and Belizeans to better understand what they're looking at. It's your history, and it brings a bigger appreciation for it. So, yeah.
We saw you all in action today, and I'm sure Dean Gibbs, Antonio, I know you weren't there, Sylvia, but I'm sure you all are proud of this cohort of students that we have. We saw you engaging the tourists, telling them about your findings. So that was really very impressive, and we thank you for that. You made us proud. So we really and truly are sitting on a wealth. We're sitting in a backyard. Our backyard is just so full of ancient culture. We really are not doing enough. And by that I mean our young people are not engaging enough, or people seem to not realize just how much we have in our own grasp. And we want to encourage them to do more, to become more involved. So I'm really very happy to hear what you had to say, Justin Romari, and just to look at the whole panel here and how engaged you are in this particular field area. So, but what would be a big deal? What is an archaeologist's dream? We have people coming from abroad, we have our locals, we have our students. What does every archaeologist want to happen upon when they're doing their excavation?
I'll take this as a student, and then the others can take this as those who have been in the field for longer than I have. We quickly learned the hard truth about it. When everyone got there, we were so excited. We were expecting to find jade. We were expecting to find a burial. We quickly learned that though it is an amazing find, it is painstaking work, worth it, but the amount of conservation that may go towards all of these little things is extensive. We reached to the point that we found ceramic deposits, and I was literally laying down on the floor with dental tools and makeup brushes, trying to make sure that these ceramics would not break, trying to make sure that all of these things would be well preserved and nobody would walk upon them. We had to make sure that all of these things were to be kept safe, bagged, and labeled for further research. And I think that's where, when we got into the field, we started thinking we were so excited we were going to find amazing things, which we did, but you get to realize that, yes, you do find amazing things, but there is a whole list of what you have to do when you find these amazing things. So, and we quickly learned what to learn and expect from archaeology when it comes to our biggest dreams of finding amazing things.
Thank you. That is amazing. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk to each of you about what it was a defining moment for you in your when you were studying, while you were excavating, when you learned something. One defining moment where you know, I'm going to stick with archaeology. This is the area for me, or anthropology. We'll take a break now, and we'll be right back for the wrap up.
Our Galen University family urges you to take the stand with us to get vaccinated so that we can live healthier and safer lives.
I am Dr. Eve Aird, your provost. I took the COVID-19 vaccine for my husband's health, my family's health, and for my health, and most especially for your health, for the health of the Galen faculty, staff, and students, and for Belize's health. Join me in taking the COVID-19 vaccine so we can return to campus in September, confident that we are in a safe, healthy environment, and so that we can help Belize to recover from this COVID-19 pandemic.
Let's get together and save our country. Get vaccinated today.
I'm Dr. Sylvia Cattouz, Dean of the Faculty of Management and Entrepreneurship, and I'm fully vaccinated. I get vaccinated for the sake of my students, my family, and colleagues. I urge all our students and all of Belize to get vaccinated.
For the safety of our country, get vaccinated today.
I'm Sherry Gibbs, the Dean for the Faculty of Art, Science, and Technology. I got vaccinated because I trust the science, but because I also want to protect my family, my colleagues, and my students. I can't wait to see them again in September, so I encourage everybody out there to get vaccinated so we can protect each other.
I'm Coach Bernie Tarr, and let's play our role and get vaccinated.
For your future, for my future, for our future, let's keep Belize safe.
Galen University, promoting academic excellence, sustainable development, and lifelong learning. Visit our website at www.galen.edu.bz and remember to follow us on our social media for more updates.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. We're in our last segment and we want to do our wrap up. Before we took a break, I had said to our panelists that we want to end by talking about what was each of our panelists' defining moment in the field of anthropology or archaeology. What was that I'm where I need to be or where I want to be, or I'm headed in the direction that I need to go, because this is really the area for me. So who would like to, Dean Gibbs? Oh, Antonio, go first.
Mine is not, I guess it's not going to be the same as others. I mean, I found jade and burials and architecture, and it's all great and wonderful. My aha moment is when I meet someone and they tell me, I got into archaeology because of you. You came to my school so many years ago, and what you said stuck with me so much. I saw your passion, your dedication, and you're the reason why I got into this. That is why I do what I do. It's not for the objects or the buildings, it's for the people. Because when I see these girls out there talking to the tourists coming in, that is my aha moment. That's like, what I do matters, and I can see it trickling down into them, and they are now understanding that what they do matters as well.
All right. Anybody else wants to tell us their aha moment?
I remember it was the first week when we were doing field work. We had just started, and I was digging in my unit, and I found the first spearhead. It was just the top was clicked off, and it's a long story. But when I found it, everyone came running to where we were, and they were like, "Oh my God, let me see what you found!" And Sir was like, everybody only gets 5 seconds to touch it. Akira gets 20 seconds. And I think I only held it for like 3 seconds, and I started to cry. It was like confirmation to know that this is where I want it to be. And I loved it so much, and I love the feeling from it, and I still feel it. That's just me.
We wish you well. I would really hope that you realize your dreams with this particular in this particular field area. Dean Gibbs and Sylvia, do you want to add anything before we do our final wrap up?
Yes. I was moving, Akira. I could feel your emotion. For me, it would be when I co-founded Heritage Education Network Belize last year. There have been many times in my career where I have done different types of outreach, different types of policy initiatives, different types of research, where I have been involved in regional work. But last year, in the midst of the pandemic, we had a friend of mine who's lovely, Ella Bekeshi. She does a whole bunch of work up in northern Belize, and she got stuck in Hungary during the pandemic, unable to return to Belize. And she said, "Sylvia, we need to do something." And I get goosebumps still talking about it. And I messaged a couple other people that I work very closely with in our other outreach activities out in Western Belize, and we decided that we were going to co-found an NGO and figure out how to make archaeology more accessible to people who are sort of at home, who are stuck in the middle of this pandemic and maybe need an outlet, and that archaeology could be that outlet. And a year and a couple months later, we are, officially a registered NGO. We are 4 female archaeologists leading that NGO. We have had so many firsts. We highlight community members, cultural practitioners. We have archaeology videos, business support videos. We have a website, a Facebook page, a YouTube page, heritagebelize.org. You can find us all over social media. We are having our first and hopefully annual symposium coming up in the 1st to the 3rd of September. We have so many avenues that we're trying to open for people to engage with archaeology, even if it's behind a computer, even if it's at the click of your mouse. Archaeology should be accessible to people, and we are working with so many people to make that happen. And I think that was the moment when I stepped out and I sort of forged a different path with a group of really, really strong women who have that same vision, that I said, this is where it should be. This is how far you can go when you have people who share that same vision, share that same work, and have the same work ethic that you do. And yeah, we're growing by leaps and bounds, and hope that people join into our symposium. It's open to Belizeans and anybody doing research in Belize or on Belize. So our call for abstracts are open until the 16th of July. Apply, present at the symposium, volunteer with us, but get engaged with archaeology, because we're making this available for Belizeans.
You continue to make us proud. Dean Gibbs, would you like to have a final word? We're almost out of time, so we're really in our wrap-up. But we will give our Dean of Faculty of Art, Science and Technology, Dean Gibbs. She's been fantastic. She's the reason why our program in that particular faculty are doing so well. Of course, with the help of our lecturers, and both Sylvia and Antonio are adjunct faculty with Galen University. Dean Gibbs, would you like to say a quick last word before we say our goodbyes?
Thanks so much, Diana. This has just been a fantastic hour and a bit. It's been so fantastic listening to Rumari and Akira share about and not just their past 4 weeks, what they've experienced and what they've learned, but it's also just their whole time at Galen, where they've also been coming from that desire, their goals, their dreams. And it's just, I got really emotional too when you expressing that you've had this opportunity to be able to get in and to do this, and this can become a reality. That's what's just really most exciting for me and reaffirming too. So like my wow moment, what I was listening to what Antonio first talked about, and then listening to Sylvia. And I think when I first started working and teaching at Galen, I think maybe that would be it for me, and being able to share what I had learned with everybody, and passing on all of those opportunities and what had been instilled in me by so many individuals like Dr. Awe, taking a chance on me and letting me come down here, and his enthusiasm so infectious, and try to be able to pass that on. And so, and then of course, Antonio and Sylvia, just two wonderful lecturers. I'm so happy that we were able to now have Antonio as part of our awesome move of the adjuncts, and to have Sylvia back as a proud Galen, being able to teach her students, but also, Raf Guerra, who graduated from Galen, went off to do his PhD and should be finishing up soon, and so he's been back teaching with us. And then other anthropologists too, Dr. Tim Mesh, who is from San Antonio here in the Cayo district, went off to do his PhD and is back in the country and teaches with us. So it's been such a great that Galen has this program to afford a space for Belizean researchers, Belizean anthropologists and archaeologists to come back and to teach the next generation in anthropology and archaeology. And so, for anybody out there who's interested, please, I think it's pretty easy to find us and to get in touch with us, and just talk to us. What would this be about? What are our courses like? What's the program like? What are your opportunities and your options? And just talk to us, get in touch, and like Sylvia said, get in and explore your country.
Thank you. So on that note, we want to bring our Galen Hour to a close. We thank Romari, Akira, Antonio, Sherry, and Sylvia for joining us tonight. You are great panelists, and we want to say that because of students like you, faculty like you, and our dean, Galen is a better place, our community is a better place. Thank you. Thank you to our viewers for joining us tonight. We look forward to having you join us again next week. Same time, same place. It's Thursdays at 8 o'clock. Have a good night, and thank you.
The Galen Hour. Every Thursday, 8 o'clock p.m. on Love Television and Facebook Live.